Hello, everyone. Thank you for your time for being with us today. It's a great pleasure to host this webinar about Central and Eastern Europe and particularly about e-commerce in this region. My name is Adichev and I'm the country manager of Media Post Hitmail, the company that stays behind the brand Balkan e-commerce. I am here today with my colleague Elena Grozeva. Hello, Eli. She is the most detailed person that I know. So I hope that together we will bring you some useful information and some tips about how to run and operate an e-commerce business in the region. I hope that in the next 45 to 50 minutes, we will give you plenty of ideas, plenty of things to consider. And most important is that we aim to bring some interesting facts about the region so that when you consider some of these countries within Central and Eastern Europe, or if you plan to expand your online presence in the region, that would be the most helpful information for you. So just a brief introduction, a bit of homework. I think that everyone is quite familiar with the Zoom platform, but just for the sake of having everything on the same page, if you have some questions, please use the Q&A module that you have available on your screens. Of course, if you need to comment something, please feel free to share with us your comments or ideas in the chat platform as well. So it is really important to organize this webinar and this online event as a discussion, because we are far from the idea that we will give answers to all the questions that you might have. And of course, the topic is so broad that it will take ages to discuss all the details. But our aim is to give a nice overview, and from then on, for you to be easier to expand in the region. So first of all, we will briefly introduce ourselves. We will provide you with some useful data, we hope, about e-commerce in the region, and some ideas about how and why should you consider expanding your business in the region. Of course, we will focus on some specifics which are available for most of the markets. We will present you with 3 interesting case studies about online businesses from different categories that expanded quite successfully in the different countries. We will quickly present Balkan e-commerce as a service integrator, and at the end of the webinar, we have prepared for you a very interesting bonus, which is a free ebook about the region and about what should you do when you expand your online business abroad. Eli, it's a great pleasure to have you here today. Ladies first, so please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Christo. Hello, everyone. My name is Elena Grozeva, and I'm project manager from Balkan e-commerce team. I'm responsible for the coordination of various cross-border projects and help clients establish on international markets, and also manage their operations in order to let them don't bother with additional tasks.
And my name is Adichev. As I told you, I am the country manager of Media Post Hitmail and co-founder of Balkan e-commerce. I have some marketing background and I am working mainly with big international clients. I am responsible within the scope of the project about the strategic planning and about facilitating the integration between different systems. So let's go fast forward. This is the region we will talk about. Of course, you will see that we didn't put all the countries that are in the Central and Eastern Europe here. This is mainly because a variety of reasons. First of all, some of the markets are quite encapsulated, still not very well developed, or they lack infrastructure, or they lack additional data, or simply we do not feel that we have enough information about them. These are the markets that we think we know quite well and we feel comfortable with. That's why we will focus on them. And next, we will give you some interesting statistics about each one of them. First of all, I would say that every e-commerce business that is planning to expand in Central and Eastern Europe should consider the region as a whole. Because out of these 12 markets that we will talk about today, if you take them one by one, it is really challenging to organize your e-commerce business, mainly because we have 12 different markets with 9 different currencies. You have different size of the population, different habits. You will see on the next charts that we have presented for you. That's why it is wiser to cherry pick one focal destinations or 2 or 3 focal destinations and to organize everything around them so that you can cover a broader audience, broader territorial scope, and you have more effective business operations. But in general, the population of these 12 markets we will talk about is a little bit more than 126 million people, which makes it a very attractive market. Big portion of them, and this portion is only subject to growth in the next years, are e-shoppers, which are 70 million plus, more than 70 million. The total turnover of the B2C e-commerce is more than 45 billion euro, and the average growth rate of the region is 14%. It is 14% because if you take Central Europe separately and you take Eastern Europe separately, you will see very big differences in the growth. For example, in Eastern Europe alone, the growth rate is 26%. Which means that year over year, the market is growing quite fast. And this is because of the lower base, of course. Central European markets are more saturated, more mature, more developed. That's why their growth is a bit lower. In terms of countries, of course, Poland is the biggest country in the region with almost 40 million people population. 25 million e-commerce shoppers, e-shoppers, people who have purchased something over the internet in the last 12 months. Romania is the next to follow, and then we have a cluster of countries with around 8 to 10 million people population. And at the end of the list as population is Slovenia and North Macedonia, but this shouldn't confuse you because I would say that the Polish market, apart of being the biggest one in the region, is also one of the toughest to work with. So if you don't have a local team with presenting your company in Poland, it will be quite difficult to be competitive there, mainly because Polish people prefer local players. Their biggest retailer of fuel, for example, is a Polish company, Orlen. The biggest retailer in supermarkets is also a Polish company. The biggest marketplace is also Polish. We will talk about it a bit later on. That's why it is quite tricky to consider the potential of the market by the population. So Romania is also quite interesting market, by the way. It has almost 20 million people, and it is growing quite fast, as you will see on the next slides. The Czech Republic, I would say, together with Austria, are the most well advanced in terms of e-commerce and more mature markets. quite competitive, by the way, but still there is room for new players, especially in some categories and niches. What is also interesting here is that Serbia and North Macedonia are still not part of the European Union, which makes it a bit harder, for e-commerce players to move stock around. So if you plan to expand to some of these markets, it is wiser to look for a regional, not regional, but local logistics option. We are working in the last few months together with Elena on finding a solution for this. When we consider the region from another perspective, you see that the e-commerce turnover is again highest in Poland, but Czech Republic, Greece, and Austria are pretty close behind. Despite the fact that in terms of population they are much smaller, you see that the difference between Poland and the Czech Republic is not that high. Of course, $3 billion, it's euro, sorry, it's quite a considerable number, but still it is, the difference is not so dramatic. And in terms of growth, the champions in the region are Romania and Bulgaria with 30% annual growth of e-commerce business. This is data for 2019. We deliberately chose not to represent figures about 2020 because you know it is quite out of standard. So everything that you see in 2020 would be quite impacted by the pandemic. Of course, when we have enough official data, we will do a separate webinar comparing the development of the region in terms of e-commerce 2019 versus 2020. And we are preparing also a very big international survey about among e-commerce players, so that we know which of them were positively or negatively impacted by the COVID crisis. So you see that there is a huge difference in terms of growth. Austria, as being one of the most developed markets, has only 4% annual growth, while Greece, Bulgaria, Romania, and Macedonia have quite good numbers in terms of growth. And this growth is also expected to be kept for a while. On the next slide, we did a special analysis for you that we called e-commerce turnover per capita. This is again data for 2019. And here you can see how much each person within the population of the country is contributing to the total e-commerce growth. Of course, this is an average. This is taken by dividing the total turnover per market by the total population of the market. So you see that Poland, which is the biggest in terms of population, is not the biggest in e-commerce turnover per capita. Surprisingly, Greece is here. I didn't expect this, honestly speaking, but I can explain this by the fact that the Greek financial crisis that took place back in 2009, 2010 also contributed more towards the fact that people started to shop more using internet, electronic channels. Of course, that could be part of the explanation, not the whole truth, but I'm pretty confident that this is quite important factor. By the way, I saw that Greece is slowly opening for in terms of Greek manufacturers and Greek e-commerce merchants to expand to other markets. And this encapsulation of the market that we had in Greece like 2 or 3 years ago is now slowly developing, because let's say Hungarian or Romanian or Bulgarian e-commerce players were much more active in expanding in other countries, while Greece was a bit more cautious. Recently, this has changed, of course. But geography also plays an important role in this situation. You know that Napoleon once said that in history, usually geography wins. And I think that it is pretty much the same with e-commerce. If you have the proper geographical setup, this could give a big room for expansion for e-commerce players. And Greece being a bit isolated on the southern part of the Balkan Peninsula, the only option for expansion is up, which is through Bulgaria and Romania. And that's why more Greek merchants prefer to jump directly somewhere in Western Europe, because for them, these markets are much more attractive. Nevertheless, in several countries, we have this yellow arrow, which represents expected 10% or more compounded annual growth rate. That means that between the years 2020 and 2024, this is data from e-commerce database and also from Statista that we analyzed for you. These countries are expected to grow on average with more than 10% for the next 4 years. I would say that in terms of e-commerce turnover per capita, you can have similar explanation about what you can have if you go from one country to another. For example, we had plenty of Bulgarian e-commerce merchants that want to go to Romania. And usually their logic is the following. Bulgaria has 7 million people, Romania has 20 million people, therefore we will make 3 times more sales, which is not true, of course. As you can see here, the e-commerce turnover per capita for Romania is around 200 euro, and in Bulgaria it is around 130. It is pretty much what happens usually when Bulgarian merchants go to Romania. They don't have 3 times higher sales because of the population, rather they have a bit more sales compared to Bulgaria, despite the fact that the market is much bigger. So I think that these metrics are much more relevant for e-commerce owners, and you can plan better by using it compared to that if you rely solely on population as being a factor. And of course, for the whole region, there are several clear trends. First of all, the population in general decreases. This is because we live in Europe, and in Europe, demographically, population decreases with, I think, only few exceptions. The number of e-shoppers will increase over time, which means that the e-commerce turnover will also increase over time, in some countries more, in some countries less, and the turnover growth slowly will start to decrease. And these are clear trends for pretty much all the countries. Compared to Western Europe, for example, where the average growth is around 9 to 10%, in Central and Eastern Europe, we have 14 as an average. So I think this could be quite interesting for some of you, not only from the perspective of reanalyzing a key market that you want to expand to, but also to evaluate the potential of a region as a whole. Because as I told at the very beginning, it is quite important to consider the region as one. Of course, it has plenty of markets with plenty of specifics, but there are ways in your e-commerce strategy that you can expand in a bit clever way. We will show you such a way during the case studies presentation at the end of the webinar. Elena, I think here you are the right person to continue the discussion, okay?
Yeah, thank you, Christo. Here, the top 5 reasons we think you should not miss if you want to start your business here in the region. In Central and Eastern Europe, there is definitely a lower competition compared to Western Europe. Western market is more developed, as Christo said, and also overcrowded with offering of same type of products. The CEE region is rather not that familiar for retailers or manufacturers to start selling in the region. So there might be very attractive niche that are still not occupied, and you should consider for your products. Here in the region, there is definitely lower marketing and operation costs. Compared to Western Europe, the marketing cost is much lower when it comes to minimum marketing budget you should spend while popularizing your e-shop. And when it comes to cost per click or something similar, when speaking for outsourced services such as orders fulfillment, warehouse spaces, customer service, the costs are significantly also lower compared to Western Europe.
Because of the lower labor cost as well.
Yes, exactly. Based on the data we presented a few slides above, the CEE region has a big potential for growth, and e-commerce share is also expected to be growing. Compared to Western Europe, where e-commerce is well established, the Central and Eastern Europe is there are still available business areas where your e-shop can grow. Last but not least, the location of Central and Eastern Europe gives a great opportunity from 1 or 2 key locations in the region to cover whole EU with a very good delivery time. It is between 1-2 working days up to 5-6 at most.
Yes, I would also add that when we talk about growth rates and expectations, we have a very good question. I'm taking advantage of this slide because Chris Violetis is asking a very interesting question. Do you think we saw a max of internet or e-commerce sales during the pandemic, or is there more growth to come? I would say that 2020 was the so-called quantum leap when it comes to growth. In several categories, we saw dramatic growth. In other categories, for example, suitcases, there was a dramatic decline because people just simply didn't travel that much. And that's why we avoided to put data from 2020 because it would distort the whole narrative that we are preparing today because it is so out of the standards and so dependent on categories that it would be explained only by the presence of pandemic or something extraordinary that happened. But nevertheless, the entire region is expected to grow. This is a direct answer to the question that we just got. And also the growth is expected to be on average between 7 and 12%. I say on average because it is quite dependent on the region or whether you look at it from the perspective of Central Europe, Eastern Europe, altogether or comparison to Western Europe. But e-commerce sales are doomed to grow. This is for sure. So Chris, I would say that we are still far away from the time where the growth rate will go below 4% as it is currently in Austria. As I told you, Austria is a bit of an exception for the region because it is a very well developed market. But all the other markets are doomed to grow in the next 5, probably 10 years from now. So the next slide, regional specifics. Elena, back to you.
Yeah, thank you. Here are some regional specifics you should definitely consider if you want to start your business here in the region. First of all, cash is the king. In the region, the cash on delivery payment method is the most popular payment method. Between 20 to 65% of all online orders are paid cash or card, especially when the online shop customers are buying from is not well known, because clients are being more suspicious, so they just prefer to get first the order and then see it and then pay for it. Even during COVID-19 pandemic, when most of the carriers stopped accepting cash payments, it was last year in March and April when whole Europe was in total lockdown, carriers switched to card payments. Even then, when you get higher processing costs because of the card payment, consignees just continue to use this payment method and continue to prefer paying on delivery rather than prepaying their orders. Knowing that cash on delivery is the king when it comes to paying your order, you should be careful with carrier's choice and cooperate only with reliable ones. The COD automatically can higher your percentage of returned parcels, so you must always rely on a partner who is able to constantly monitor the shipping process. Courier diversification is also a key point you should consider while delivering in CEE in order to be able to switch the carrier immediately in any force majeure situation.
Especially during Black Friday cases and stuff
and
like
Christmas.
this.
Yeah,
and Christmas.
In the region, you don't have a unified currency as in most of Western Europe. Here you have 9 out of 12. You have currencies. 9 out of currencies in these countries. So you should be aware of the local currency in each country in order to provide your customers with a pleasant customer experience, and think also of a local payment provider. Also bear in mind that if you receive payments in cash on delivery, it will be more cost effective for you to receive them in local currency and having a bank account in the current country in order to avoid double currency conversion. Delivery time is crucial always, especially for e-shoppers who want just to get the deal. However, when having cash on delivery as payment of your orders, clients may order from 2 or more websites that are selling similar products and will take the order that is with the fastest delivery. There are also strong local players for some categories which you can't beat to get the deal. Here comes about a preliminary market research we always advise our customers to do before starting a business on a definite market or a region. You will learn from it who are your key competitors, and you will make your expansion strategy more wisely.
Yes, I will just add to this that regarding the cash on delivery, the lowest percentage of cash on delivery is in the Czech Republic. Around 20% of the e-shoppers are using it, while the highest one is in Romania and in Bulgaria. So the easter you go, the higher the percentage of cash on delivery is. Also regarding courier diversification, it is always good not to be dependent on a single courier. Simply because in the last years, we saw sometimes twice a year an increase in prices. And sometimes these increases were quite harsh. So it is good to consider having more than one courier option so that you are quite quick with switching between one and another. I would say that local postal operators, which are quite popular in Western Europe, for example, are also an option. But there are quite big differences. In Bulgaria, for example, the postal offices are quite convenient pickup points. Even one of the biggest marketplaces in Bulgaria is currently running cooperation with Bulgarian Post, and they are using Bulgarian Post as a pickup zone. But the quality of distribution is still very low. And it is still incomparable to, for example, the Czech Republic or to some carriers, postal carriers, which are in Western Europe. As for local currencies, Elena is absolutely right that 9 out of 12 countries would be quite a burden for each e-commerce merchant. That's why it is important to have in consideration either some of the banks with good rates for exchanges, or it is good also to rely on some of the modern fintech companies. Luckily, we have several of them here in the region, and they provide very good conditions for payments in local currencies. Of course, there is also a workaround. We will tell you about it later on during the webinar, which is quite interesting and quite rare at this point, but I think that it is a matter of time until more companies are starting to use it. Local or regional channels to consider. Have in mind that each market has its strong players here in the Central and Eastern Europe region. AMAG, for example, are very popular in Romania. In fact, they are #1 choice for Romanian customers when it comes to a marketplace. Allegro are the top favorite in Poland. They are, I think, the 5th largest marketplace in Europe at all. And they represent a preference of 80% in Poland for the Polish customers. So if you sell on Amazon, it is quite likely that in Poland you will not have very good rate of orders compared to if you have had them in Allegro. So it is quite advisable to go there. Scrooge, for example, it's a very popular price comparison website here in Greece. And in Greece also, I would say that it is slowly becoming marketplace, because last time I checked Scrooge in Greece, I was able also to place an order directly in the platform. So at the same time, you are comparing the price and also you are ordering. This is a similar situation with Allegro compared to Amazon, where each of the products are listed at once, and then you choose among different suppliers. In Allegro, each supplier has his own product card. So at the same time, you are comparing prices between different suppliers, and then you place an order. This is a bit of a difference between Allegro and Amazon, for example. When it comes to email marketing, you should know that in the Czech Republic, for example, there is a very strong player, which is called Seznam. This is also a search engine very popular in the Czech Republic. In Bulgaria, we have abv.bg, which is the strongest email marketing platform for regular B2C emails. I think that between 80 and 85% of Bulgarians who are using internet and have emails have their email in abv.bg. And it is also important then that here we have the Cyrillic alphabet, which is quite unusual compared to other countries. In Romania and in other markets also, we have the so-called special characters. So you should consider this when it comes to encoding for your email marketing strategy. Wirtualna Polska is very strong in Poland. I think it is #2 after Gmail when it comes to preferences for Polish people. As usual, in Poland, you have a very strong local player. As I told you, that there are plenty of sectors where you see a local player in Poland occupying the first place or the top 3. When it comes to digital marketing, of course, Facebook and Google are the usually preferred choice, but you should be aware of other options. eTarget, for example, is a very interesting advertising network, which is available in more than one country. I think in several 10 or 11 countries in the region. Seznam, as I told you, is quite popular in the Czech Republic, especially. Together with my colleagues, we have several campaigns in Seznam, and it brings better results compared to what we have in Google for some audiences and some product categories. Advice is another local platform. This is in Bulgaria, and Adrino is in Poland, which is a mobile advertising network. So you should always keep an eye on alternatives and local alternatives. I'm not betting on this that you will have better sales compared to or better return on investment compared to Facebook or Google, which are still the dominant players in all the markets here in the region. But still, it is good for you to diversify your digital marketing efforts and to have more options to sell. So at least the test is something that we usually recommend. When it comes to case studies, as I promised, we have cherry-picked 3 cases. The first one, Elena will tell you about. I am with the second one, and again, Elena will come back with the third one. So, Eli, back to you.
Thank you. The first case study is with a client that is selling food supplements. The services on focus that we are providing to him is orders fulfillment and also courier delivery. We are operating with this client in 3 countries, Bulgaria, Romania, and Czech Republic. And there are 2 special things about this client and his business model. First of all of his online orders are paid with cash on delivery, so they open and operate markets that support this payment method. And the second special thing is that the delivery time for them is crucial, so they do not accept delivery time above 2 working days. This is the reason these 3 countries, Bulgaria, Romania, and Czech Republic, to be serviced from 2 warehouses. Bulgaria and Romania are serviced from our warehouse in Sofia, where we accept all orders, pick and pack the products, and prepare all shipments for delivery. For Bulgaria, it is the next working day delivery. And for Romania, the process is the following. We collect all the orders for Romania. We prepare them for delivery, prepare them in one consolidated shipment, which we transport from Sofia to our other warehouse in Ruse. And from Ruse, this consolidated shipment is sent to Giurgio. It is a city in Romania near the border with Bulgaria. When the consolidated shipment comes in Giurgio, or it is deconsolidated, all parcels are dispatched as unit pieces and being delivered to their end consignees. Czech Republic is serviced from a local warehouse in Czech Republic in order to get next day delivery for all the orders. You see that this client has 5,000 plus orders. So for him is very important to have a constant monitoring on the delivery. So we have a dedicated support team who is monitoring the delivery process and also non-delivered parcels constantly in order to get lower return rate for this customer. If I have missed something specific about this customer.
No, I think it is quite enough. The good thing is that we serve more than 5,000 orders per month. We store in 2 warehouses, and in this situation, it is really important to be closer to the customers. It is not the same case as with the other case study. This is a project that we are about to launch anytime soon. The client has beer accessories, so everything which is related to beer, like t-shirts, like bottle openers, coasters for mugs themselves, and all other similar merchandise which is related to beer. Simultaneously, we will launch the product in 8 markets because everything will be country agnostic. So we will target only people who speak English, only prepaid. So we will accept only payment with credit cards. This is quite an opposite strategy compared to the common sense that we have discussed so far, but there is a reasoning behind it. First of all, if you want to cover broader audience quickly, you don't have to localize your website on different languages. So it is good for you to expand first by targeting some specific audience and trying to cover as much as possible with a single effort. That's why, of course, there are many people who like beer. Personally, I'm one of them. That's why it is good to target people who speak particular language, doesn't matter the country. All the services that we provide are quite complex regarding this project. We did the preliminary market research. We are responsible for the order fulfillment. We will ship everything from the local warehouse here in Sofia, Bulgaria. The customer service is also provided by us, and the courier delivery is cherry-picked by the local specifics, so that every customer in a different country will get his parcels from a different courier. One of the best solutions that we have on each particular market. We also have the so-called product information management solution developed for this client. So once they decide to localize on some particular market, it will be very easy for them to spread the information about products in different channels and different websites, marketplaces, or other sales channels. And of course, we are also responsible for the overall digital marketing strategy. In total, there is a company with one single employee, and everything else is outsourced. And this is something which is about to start. Of course, we cannot say something about the orders because this is about to start, but we are quite optimistic on the outcome. So you see that there is an option to go in several markets. Of course, you have to accept that you will lose some considerable audience by offering your products only in English, or by not accepting payments in local currency, and so on and so on. You should also know that from 1st of July, there is a new rule regarding cross-border sales in the European Union, and this is requiring from e-commerce merchants to declare in their country of registration the sales in other countries, so that the VAT is being distributed between the countries proportionally on the sales. If you need to know more about this, we strongly recommend you to contact your accountant or tax counselor, or whatever person you have available like this, because we are not the dedicated experts on this. For legal and accountancy and taxation matters, we usually can recommend you somebody, but it is always good to have a person who is dedicated for these solutions. And with case study number 3, Ellie, back to you.
I see that there are some questions. However, I suggest to answer them in the Q&A session.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, let's continue with the third case study. This is a client selling 3D puzzles. We're cooperating together for Greece and Cyprus. And here again, the services on focus are orders fulfillment and courier delivery. In this case, we have a warehouse in each country. First of all, because of the specific location of both countries and the availability of islands in Greece, because client wants to take the most competitive delivery time, again around 2 working days. So they wanted to have a separate warehouse in each country. And also Cyprus, it is a bit more expensive if you want to send your orders from Greece to Cyprus because of the boat delivery and also the delivery time. It takes around 6-8 days for delivery from Greece to Cyprus. Here, the payment methods are various because this type of client is cooperating both with B2C and B2B clients. So we have cash on delivery, online payments, and even bank transfers when it comes to B2B. Here, the monthly volume is not that large because, as I said, he's having both B2C and B2B orders, so they have less orders on a monthly basis compared to the much higher order value.
Okay. What is interesting here is that, of course, one B2B order could be more than all the B2C orders consolidated for the month. So it is important to be able to ship both cartons or parcels with small items inside. When it comes to wrapping up the information so far, things that you shouldn't forget when you go to other markets and selling electronically are, of course, first of all, the market data, the knowledge of the local market, what are the specifics, what are things to consider, where we will store and pick and pack your products, which means the fulfillment of the products. The good thing about outsourcing the fulfillment is that if you have a seasonal product, for example, you don't pay a fixed cost for renting a warehouse, salaries of people, and so on and so on. And if you are in several countries, you don't have to open a company in each of these countries. It is good to have 1 or 2 or more locations, depending on your strategy. And this way, the fulfillment becomes not a fixed but a variable cost. You pay for what you have as orders. Of course, another thing is the cross-border and last-mile delivery, and you should be able to play well with products data. I mean that having, let's say, 20 products or 100 or 1,000 products in several markets, in several channels, means that you have to update the information about them in each particular channel. That's why usually we recommend using product information management systems in such cases. This will make your life much easier and it will save you plenty of time and resources. Of course, the translation and adaptation of the website to the local language. Our suggestion is to use native speakers all the time. The same applies to customer service. Whenever possible, use people who are native speakers, because especially in some countries, customers there are very sensitive towards foreign people. So it is better for you to keep it local whenever possible. Of course, if it is obvious that the website is a foreign website, people who are used to order online from cross-border merchants wouldn't bother to communicate to you in English or in German or in some other language. And of course, the local marketing. Think about local marketing. Kelly, do you have something to add here?
No, I just want to add about the fulfillment that if you said that if you have a seasonal product, you probably have seasonal peaks. So
yes.
The outsource orders fulfillment is very good for these times. For example, during Black Friday or Christmas, because you don't have to bother how you're going to prepare all of your shipments. There is another team responsible for this.
Yeah. Okay. So just a few words about how we can help you with all this. We have quite a nice coverage of countries. I really even see that here we have forgotten to add Italy and Germany, which are the last markets that we are able to cover. But as you see from the map on this slide, we can cover pretty much of the whole countries in the region that we know quite well. So this way you solve many business issues at once. We can be your one-stop shop service provider because we are integrator of various services. We take care of translation and localization of websites. We take care of fulfillment. We have our own warehouses in Bulgaria, in Romania, and we have our partner warehouses in Hungary, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Poland, Greece, France, Spain, Portugal, Germany, and Italy. Eli, you will remind me if I forget something. Of course, you have a dedicated contact person for all these tasks that will coordinate for you all the activities that you use with us. And it is important to say that we have separate teams by services. I mean, we are not a local company who is providing all the services under one roof. It would be nice, but it is way too brave to do this. So we rely on proven experts in each of the markets so that you are sure that you get the best possible service. We have our own system, so with a single API integration, you can quickly expand your business in several countries. One thing to clarify is that we are not a marketplace. We can, of course, help you with some technical setup, but usually this is a task that our customers handle by themselves. We provide full transparency when it comes to reports, to services being used, or to statistics about different key performance indicators, so that at the end you can focus on what really matters for your business, and that is to find good products, to keep an eye on them, to develop your website or to optimize the conversion rate and so on, while you rely on a partner like us to take care of the other activities that you are able to cover. So next steps, of course, tell us please about your online business or what you are doing. In two weeks from now, if you do it, you will get our honest feedback about the potential we see for expanding your business in Central and Eastern Europe. Of course, if your business is interesting and if we see a good potential for it, we provide absolutely free consultancy with no strings attached from our side, but you can steal a bit of our expertise and use this expertise for your reference when you plan your expansion on other markets. So in other words, we can help you just sell more in more countries and to more people, of course. And we have this bonus material for you. This is a free book in English about the things you shouldn't forget when you start selling online. It is available, it will be available with a direct link on the presentation. You will get it after the webinar, or you can just visit right away the short link that we have provided here, and you can download the book absolutely free. So, of course, now we are open for questions from your side. From what I saw, there are several questions already in the pipeline. Elena, how to organize this? Let's read the questions one by one, and then we decide who will answer, okay? So the first one is what is the ratio cash on delivery versus not accepted by customers? By this I mean, I think Chris is meaning what is the reject rate or return rate on parcels. Elena, it is better you to answer this question, I think.
It depends on the product because like in business with food supplements, the return rate is high. It is about 15 to 20%, which is absolutely acceptable, because people are buying those products emotionally. When the order comes, they change their mind and want to return the order in order to not spend additional money. However, if you have some good product, like in cosmetics, the return rate will be much lower, at most 3%, let's say. It depends on the product.
We had the truth is that when you have cash on delivery, you should expect higher return rate. This is kind of a rule in the e-commerce business in the region. So if you provide cash on delivery as an option for your customers versus other methods of payments, your returns will be higher, simply because the cash on delivery is the best that could happen to the customer. And it is the worst that could happen to the merchant, because the merchant takes and absorbs all the risk. That's why it is very important, if you sell cross-border in countries where you have cash on delivery, to have local return address. Because if the return rate is higher, you don't have to pay for the parcel to go, let's say, from Bulgaria to Hungary and back, but you will consolidate the return parcel in a local address in Hungary and then ship them as a group parcel back to Bulgaria, to the warehouse, so that your return cost will be much lower. Of course, we provide in all the countries where we provide warehouse services, we also provide local website, local address for returns. Do you also cooperate with local specialists for each country? This is again a question for Elena.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we do cooperate with local teams, but again, it depends on the service. When it comes to customer service, we also do cooperate with local teams in order to use native-speaking operators. When it comes to translations, we do also use native speakers in order to be the text translated and localized properly. About marketing, for example, we do all the marketing services from our team here in Sofia. They manage online campaigns in 10+ countries in international and local channels. However, if the marketing campaign is set up in local language, we do use local people to translate the marketing texts.
Yeah. There is another question concerning the HD you offer for your customer. Do you use the same carrier for more countries, or you use local ones? Again, for Elena.
Okay,
all the questions are for Elena.
I'm more into operations. We do use local carriers in each country, and it is not only one carrier, it is almost all well-known carriers in Europe, in order to give this diversification that we talked about earlier to our customers. So we provide single API integration with which you can use almost each carrier in Europe.
Okay, and can you share a direct email address? Of course, you can have our address here. It is contact@balkanicommerce.com. So feel free to send us your questions or to tell us more about your business.
I'm also giving my personal email.
Yes, okay. Do you work as a partner with foreign e-commerce players? This is a question that we got in the Q&A section. And the second one is, do you provide service as a percentage of revenue basis or a fixed price model? How to distribute the answer, Eli? maybe I can try to answer this question.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not sure what do you mean by the question, do you work as a partner with foreign e-commerce players? Yes, we have plenty of e-commerce customers that come from abroad, and we service them for different countries. For example, we have a customer who comes from Lithuania, and we serve them in Bulgaria. We have other customer that is from Serbia, and we serve them in Spain, and so on and so on. If this is the question that you mean, yes, the answer is yes, we work as a partner to e-commerce players because they can rely on us for a variety of services. And the second question, do you provide service as a percentage of revenue basis or as a fixed price model? I would say we can do both, but in order to have a percentage of revenue basis, first of all, we need at least 6 months of a test so that we know quite well the business of the customer. And we have 2 or 3 cases where we are paid based on performance. We are not afraid of performance basis. And sometimes we work with customers based on a revenue percentage, but the customer is responsible for the media budget on digital advertising, let's say. So it is quite complex to answer you with a straightforward answer. Of course, in most of the cases, we provide service as a service. But Elena, you wanted to tell something.
Yeah, I want to add that it depends on the service.
Yeah.
We can work as a percentage of revenue basis in terms of marketing, but about fulfillment, we have a fixed price per fulfilled order. So you pay exactly how much orders you have processed during the month. Of course, if you have larger volumes, we can make a custom-based offer and work with special pricing, but it depends on the service.
Yeah. There is a question from Vanda. Can you nominee some of your clients as a reference? Yes, of course. For example, we work with one of the biggest retailers in Bulgaria, which is Ozon. They are the biggest when it comes to selling books and selling gaming accessories and stuff like PlayStation, computer games, and so on. And they use us to ship their products to Romania because they have recently opened their business in Romania. We also have a website which is called biri.bg, and they sell boxes of beer in Bulgaria and in Romania, and we provide the warehouse fulfillment and courier delivery and direct marketing, digital marketing, sorry, for them. We also have several clients that are quite big, but you wouldn't know the name simply because their brands are very local and very unpopular to people who don't know him. So yes, we are quite open towards such information. We don't hide anything. So if you have some specific question, tell us, please. Okay, is there something else? At this point, I don't see the questions, but thank you very much for all your questions. They were quite interesting and quite to the point. I hope that we managed to answer most of them. If, of course, you have some additional questions, feel free to contact us, send us an email or call directly Elena. This is her number, and we will be glad to reply to your questions. So thank you so much for staying with us today. I wish you a very nice evening, and we hope to see you soon. Doesn't matter where, either virtually or in person. It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
It was a big pleasure.
Take care and bye-bye.